On September 12, 2019, Ocean Township Police and Fire Departments responded to a report around 7:32 a.m. of a fire at 86 Wigapico Drive in the township. Upon arrival, authorities found an approximately 6,000 square foot house completely engulfed in flames. Once the fire was extinguished, a joint investigation was launched by the Ocean Township Police Department and the Monmouth County Prosecutor's Office in conjunction with the Monmouth County Fire Marshal's Office. Police quickly determined that two residents, Ronald Teschner and Jacqueline Tiruli, along with Jacqueline's 2019 Jeep Cherokee, were missing. Jacqueline Tiruli had been renting the property. Surveillance footage captured her Jeep leaving Monmouth County 3 minutes before the fire was reported to dispatchers. Jacqueline and her housemate / on-again off-again boyfriend, Ronald Teschner, lived together in the house along with her brother, sister and mother. The other house members were in Atlantic City at the time of the fire. It was found that Ronald and Jacqueline's relationship was strained, and family members reported that Jacqueline was not happy with his alcohol and drug use. They also said that she had previously tried to throw him out of the house. On September 13, the morning after the fire, police found Ronald sitting in Jacqueline's vehicle in Paterson, New Jersey. In the vehicle, the police found various items including clothing, shotgun and jewelry, all belonging to Jacqueline. Authorities also found bank cards, a Rolex watch and lawn equipment including leaf blowers, chainsaw and a weed whacker that Jacqueline used as her landscaping business. A person came forward and said that shortly after the fire, Ronald had met with them to sell them landscaping equipment to settle a debt. Ronald had an extensive criminal history from multiple stints in state prison to convictions for assault, drugs and burglary. Authorities later found out that Ronald had told an acquaintance that he had planned to rob his girlfriend while she slept after he overheard her saying she wanted to kick him out. However, Jacqueline caught him in the act and threatened to call the police. He then told the man he had dealt with his girlfriend. He wrapped her body in a tarp and then drove off to hide it somewhere. Ronald then returned to Jacqueline's home, packed her Jeep with some of her belongings, and used nail polish remover to ignite the fire in the master bedroom on the first floor. He then sold her belongings for cash and bought heroin with the proceeds. Ronald allegedly stole more than $5,000 worth of property. Initially, authorities held Ronald on multiple charges, including 2 counts of unlawful possessions of a weapon and second-degree certain persons not to possess a weapon. Nearly 3 months after the initial charges, prosecutors added first-degree murder, felony murder, distributing human remains, robbery, and aggravated arson. If convicted, Ronald faces possibility of life in prison without parole. Ronald is currently lodged in the Monmouth County Correctional Institution. Despite extensive searches, Jacqueline's remains have not yet been located. Nicola Payne was a 18-year-old girl who lived with her boyfriend Jason Cook and a 7-month-old son, Owen, on Winston Avenue in Coventry, England. On December 14, 1991, Nicola decided to visit her parents' house, which was about half a mile away. She left her son with Jason and began to walk to her parents' house, a journey that should have only taken 10 minutes, even accounting for the foggy weather. The route took her across a local piece of waste ground known as the Black Pad. Nicola was never seen again. When Nicola didn't arrive to her parents' house after 30 minutes, her parents began looking for her. After not finding her anywhere, they reported her missing to the police. West Midlands Police began the search with sniffer dogs and a helicopter. More than 80 detectives and volunteers worked to find her, but no trace of her was found. Jason Cook was ruled out as a suspect early in the investigation. Soon after her disappearance, Nicola's family received telephone calls from a man claiming to know the whereabouts of Nicola. He claimed to have seen someone carrying a possibly drunk individual along the side of the road. The only description he provided of the man was that he was wearing a big coat and had a mustache. On December 17, 1991, police would arrest a former warehouse worker, Nigel Barwell, and his brother-in-law, Thomas O'Reilly, relating to the case. But they claimed to have been 14 miles away in Rugby, Warwickshire at the time of her disappearance. They were soon released after witnesses failed to pick them out of a police lineup. There would be no leads and the case would grow cold. Then, in 1996, police excavated a yard of a home which was about 150 yards away from Nicola's home after an electronic equipment suggested that the soil had been disturbed. However, they found nothing. In 2001, they dredged a portion of the Oxford Canal near the nearby village of Fanstey, again finding nothing. In 2007, police arrested Malcolm Brannan, a 37-year-old man from Derbyshire, on suspicion of abduction and murder of Nicola Payne. But he was released 4 months later after police dug up his yard and found nothing. In 2008, the police excavated a yard of a house on Winston Avenue which runs parallel to the Black Pad. Again, nothing was found. In June 2012, another tip led police to excavate a land a couple of miles away from where she disappeared, near Courthouse Green. Still nothing was found. In the same month, a tip led police to arrest Patrick Judge and his son Keith in Coventry on suspicion of preventing the lawful and decent burial of a body. However, after extensive search of Patrick's house and excavation of his yard, police found nothing and both were released soon after. In December 2013, Nigel and Thomas were arrested again on suspicion of murder of Nicola Payne. Both were released on bail few days later but charged with murdering Nicola in 2015. During the trial, 2 witnesses told the court that Nigel and Thomas had admitted to them that they had killed Nicola. Earlier, a tent had been discovered in undergrowth in Nigel's garden 5 days after Nicola disappeared. Inside the tent, police found strands of hair that most likely belonged to Nicola. However, the tent was not placed on exhibits log until January 19, 1992, and then recovered in February 2014 in an unsealed bag that resulted in cross-contamination. This mishandling of the evidence resulted in the pair being found not guilty. In 2018, police started digging in Coombe Park, a local beauty spot frequented by many local people. During the search, a boot was found. The boot was believed to be similar to the one Nicola was wearing when she disappeared. But police said the boots have no significance to the investigation. Nicola and her body has yet to be found, and her case remains open and unsolved. Lee Boxell was a 15-year-old boy who lived with his parents, Peter and Christine Boxell, and a sister named Lindsay in Cheam, a large suburban village in South London. He was passionate about music and football. His routine included attending school Monday to Friday, and then on weekends he attended football matches with his friends. On 10th September 1988, Lee put on his black jeans, his brown shoes and a white t-shirt with an image of the Flintstones printed on the front and left his home to meet up with a friend. Lee then walked to a local high street of Sutton and met with his friend around 11 a.m. The pair wandered around a bit and spent a couple of hours window shopping. They parted their way around 1 p.m. Before Lee said his goodbyes, he told his friend that he might go to Crystal Palace's Selhurst Park Stadium to watch a football match between Charlton Athletic FC and Millwall FC. Lee would never return back home. At around lunchtime, Lee's parents thought he might have gone to the football match and normally he would not return till 5 p.m, so they weren't worried. Lee would always call at full time to say when he'd be back, but this time he did not. When Lee did not arrive back home after 5 p.m. and he didn't call, the parents reported him missing. For the beginning of the investigation, the police focused heavily on the concept that Lee may have ran away. However, by the third day, after talking to family and friends, the police concluded Lee had no reason to run away. He had a happy childhood and he got along with everyone. After a few days, the police began a nationwide search for Lee. Famous footballers appeared on the news asking Lee to make contact with his parents, and articles on the case started appearing in national newspapers. The police checked the CCTV from the football match. However, they could not find any evidence to indicate that Lee was at the game that day. Soon, a witness came forward and told the police that they had seen him at the bottom of Sutton High Street outside Tesco supermarket at 2:20 p.m. The time of the sighting confirmed that it was unlikely that Lee would have made it to any of the football grounds in the area in time for a 3 p.m. kickoff. After 3 months of constant dead-end leads, it was decided to feature Lee's disappearance on Crime Watch. Lee's face was also featured on milk cartons. Yet, no new leads would be found and the case would grow cold. Then, in 1990, an off-duty police officer attended a party and met a bank worker who claimed he and his friend had beat up and killed a boy and buried his body in a graveyard. One of his co-workers also came forward and said he had told her the same story as well. The man was brought in for questioning. However, with no evidence, the police had to let him go. The case would again go cold. Then, in 2001, a middle-aged woman came into Sutton police station to say that she was raped and molested as a kid in the late 80s by a gravedigger at St. Dunstan's Church in Cheam. Police investigated the claim and found 3 other victims. The gravedigger, known as William Lambert, was arrested and charged with the rape and indecent assault of underage girls. During his trials, one of the survivors told the court how Lambert would hold initiation ceremonies to pass on the next level of his witch powers, which could be passed on through sex. Another time, a girl told Lambert that she believed she could be pregnant. Lambert then tricked her into having sex with him and claimed that after they had sex, she would no longer be pregnant. It was also found that Lambert ran an unofficial youth club in St. Dunstan's Church. Local children would come to the club, which was nicknamed The Shed. He was found guilty and jailed for 11 years. In 2012, a new witness came forward to claim that Lee had begun frequenting The Shed. An inmate close to Lambert also said that Lambert had told him that he had killed Lee and buried him in a graveyard. Police wondered if Lee had visited the shed that day and came across someone being abused, and to silence him, Lambert killed him. However, after excavating a part of the graveyard at Dunstan's Church, nothing was found. When questioned, Lambert said that he had nothing to do with his disappearance. In 2014, police arrested 4 individuals over Lee's disappearance. 3 men aged 78, 52 and 41 were arrested on suspicions of conspiracy to pervert the course of justice and indecency with children, and a 42-year-old woman was also arrested on suspicions of conspiracy to the crimes. However, all 4 were soon released without any charge. Over the many decades, the police had followed many leads, but as to what happened to Lee remains unknown. He remains missing to this day.